It's the Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling Podcast. My name is Josh, and once again, I'm here alone in JJTW Studios. Mr. Josh is in quarantine, socially distancing himself from everyone else, just with his family. So don't worry, everybody. Josh is okay, but you're stuck with me again. But don't worry, folks. Josh and I did have a lengthy conversation before recording, just talking about everything going on in the world of wrestling. Specifically, WrestleMania is a big standout, of course. WrestleMania happening on 2 nights. So don't worry. In addition to my insights, I'm going to be sharing some of Josh's insights from our discussion. So let's start with the big one, right? WrestleMania. Let's break it down to what we know, okay? WrestleMania is now a 2-night event. It's too big to be one night. I love their marketing. It's too big. It's too big. Now it's 2 nights. Yeah, that's right. It's pre-taped. There will be no Roman Reigns, and it's going to be, quote, outside the box. So let's take a look. 2-night event, a la Wrestle Kingdom. It's interesting. Josh and I had talked about this a few shows ago, talking about what if WrestleMania followed suit with Wrestle Kingdom and made it a 2-night event. Because it was becoming this like 6-7 hour event. It's just insane. So we thought, well, what if they stretch it, So you can go tune in on that. So it's just interesting to see that our prediction, I guess you could say, our hypothesis, our what if, is sort of coming true now. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out Saturday and Sunday for WrestleMania, an entire weekend. Next, we have the fact that it is pre-taped, everybody. Pre-tape. And I mean, we've seen it with the Performance Center episodes of SmackDown and Raw, as well as AEW. The key with being pre-taped, and I think they're starting to get better at doing these pre-taped shows, these empty arena shows, especially WWE. It's starting to feel a little less empty. I feel like AEW always had it right, the way they chose their camera angles and the way they actually had some of the other wrestlers and some of the other officials at ringside helped to make the arena feel less empty. And I feel like WWE is kind of catching on to that too now with the way they're filming things currently. I think that something that needs to be noticed is when they take advantage of this opportunity that has presented itself to them. The fact that it is pre-taped and there is no audience. I feel it's important to take advantage of that. Why not utilize that to do something unique that you normally couldn't do? We saw Miz and Morrison doing that with their back and forth impersonations of New Day, taking advantage of the fact that you can have camera cuts, you can have wardrobe changes, and you splice it all together. AEW, we saw Matt Hardy was teleporting around in the audience, much to the confusion of Chris Jericho. I think that's great. I think that's great. Take advantage of what you have right now. When life gives you lemons, make it into wrestling lemonade, which probably tastes really bad, like real sweaty maybe. I don't know. So keep doing that. So when they say that, WrestleMania is going to be pre-taped, it kind of starts my gears turning, like, what are the possibilities that they could do? One of the things I heard that they're doing right now is they're filming multiple endings to some of the bigger matches. This is smart I think this is a really great idea for 2 reasons. I think one of the things is you could fix things if something gets botched or something doesn't go quite right. Obviously, you can change that. If you think something's a good idea and then, you could think about it a little later and say, maybe that's not the best approach. And also the other thing is spoilers are a lot less dangerous now because someone could, theoretically, there might be some spoilers. So far, so good, right? I haven't really seen any spoilers out there. I haven't been looking for them, but so far, so good. We haven't seen any spoilers. But if something does leak, WWE could just choose a different ending or something. So I'm really interested to see what they do with that. I'm hoping for, in addition to just being able to choose the best ending, the best results, just make the best show that you can because you do have that hindsight of editing. In addition to that, I'm hoping that we see some more cinematic matches in interesting locales. That would be pretty cool. I liked the Final Deletion. I liked the New Day versus the Wyatts at the Wyatt compound. I even liked some of the House of Horrors match with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt a while back. So I'm hoping that this time they actually take advantage of this and they say, well, this is pre-taped, we can do whatever we want. Let's do something really cool. Let's create the kind of wrestling matches that you can't have with a live audience, that you can't do in something with something that's based inside of a stadium. You know what I mean? Go out on location and do something really wild. I think the possibilities are there. Like, fight in a subway. Do some cool shit like you used to see on Shotgun Saturday Night, maybe. But make it even more over the top because, again, you have editing. Very powerful. So that, of course, ties into the outside the box presentation. And then, so the next thing we on our list here for WrestleMania is no Roman Reigns. As everybody knows, of course, Roman Reigns is in remission from his leukemia. And what that also means is that his immune system is not quite where it needs to be for let's say, just a regular healthy person, a fully healthy person, let's say. So Roman Reigns is not 100%. He's back to wrestle and stuff, but his immune system itself, when it comes to like fighting off infection, viruses, illness, it's not where it needs to be. He's not. So he made the very smart decision to sit out WrestleMania. I mean, this was a good decision. I don't care what anybody says. And you know what? You got people on Twitter calling Roman Reigns a coward or a wuss or whatever. You know what? Fuck you. Seriously, fuck you, man. If you call yourself a wrestling fan and you're going to hound Roman Reigns, or you're going to tweet at him, or you're even going to just consider him a coward for doing this, you're not a fan. That's really terrible. So good on Roman Reigns doing the right thing. Yeah, it's the biggest, it's the grandest stage of all. It's the granddaddy of them all, blah, blah, blah. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, there will be other WrestleManias. Roman Reigns has a long career ahead of him, hopefully. Plenty of time for him to get over naturally, perhaps, even maybe. We'll see. But no, Roman Reigns sitting out, that's a good decision. That's a good choice. But when I was talking about this with Josh, he was saying that, he originally never thought that a 2-night Mania similar to Wrestle Kingdom would ever work in the U.S. Of course, unless there's a pandemic where everyone has to be quarantined. He said he thinks that's the only way this could possibly work. And maybe he's right. It's just such an unheard of concept. In 36 years, we've never heard of this. And this is probably, honestly, if we're being honest, this is probably going to be the last time WrestleMania is 2 nights. Because it's true, you really don't want to do it unless you have to. It's just such a foreign concept. It's such a weird thing for us. Josh makes a good point because he's talking about how, the network's probably going to see even more subscribers because, everybody's home. Where else are you going to go? Why not just stay in the weekend and watch WrestleMania? And it's free. And it's free. If you've already burned through Tiger King, which I feel like, 75% of the country already has, yeah, why not? Why not just do this? It's free for new subscribers. You got nothing else to do. And there's a bunch of big names that you might recognize. A lot of people are going to remember Goldberg at least. And you say, hey, Goldberg, hey, free? Okay, I'm stuck here. What else am I doing? So yeah, it is kind of a good idea in a way. Like I said, we're talking about turning lemons into lemonade here. Also, when I was talking to Josh earlier today, Josh was saying that what if SummerSlam and WrestleMania actually merged to create this once-in-a-lifetime, super mega wrestling event, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. WWE would hype it to the hilt. It would be, Super WrestleMania, Summer Super Slam, something like that, right? That would be amazing. Do it in he's thinking the end of August, 2020 maybe, and it's SummerSlam / WrestleMania 2020, and it's a week-long event. You got the Hall of Fame, NXT TakeOver, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and you just make it a massive spectacle. And hey, who knows? I mean, WWE seems to be in the business of just going bigger, always bigger. So what's bigger than having your biggest show and then what's basically your second biggest show, I'd argue, SummerSlam, merge together? Why not, right? At this point, it's the only way you can get bigger, right? So just some thoughts there on this new interesting WrestleMania in terms of just the concept itself and everything surrounding it. Let's take a look at some of these matches and see what our thoughts here on this. The most interesting one to me and probably Josh is Styles versus Undertaker in what they're apparently calling a boneyard match. Everything we've heard about it, it just sounds like it's a buried alive match. But maybe they don't want this whole burial type concept going on when there's a death toll from a virus, globally. So it makes sense, right? Josh and I are on the same page here. Our hope is that this is filmed in an actual cemetery. That would just be really cool. Again, taking advantage of the fact that this is pre-filmed, you could do something very cinematic. And I feel like Undertaker really benefits from that. It'll be interesting to see if he's going to be biker Undertaker or mystical, dead man Undertaker. It's hard to tell right now, but if he were to do the dead man thing, the possibilities with that, having that in a cinematic style with so much editing and special effects you can throw in, all kinds of possibilities. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do, and I hope they don't botch this and just give us something lame. This is really a chance to create that out of the box moment that they're talking about, And next up, I'd say the second biggest match for us is Strowman versus Goldberg. Of course, Roman Reigns was supposed to face Goldberg, but, like we said, he wisely backed out of that. This is, of course, going to be for the WWE Universal title. And Josh is thinking that Strowman should go over, but it needs to be like a knockdown, drag out, monster house brawl match. And yeah, why not, right? We got Goldberg, and Strowman's just that kind of guy. Like, you know what I mean? We're looking for like 20 false finishes. You know, we totally forget the fact that there were only 5 moves between them the entire time, but because it doesn't matter. It's just this knockdown, just mega battle. Like this hardcore fight. We want people going through walls. We want them throwing around like giant objects on the ringside. The steps, whatever. Just make it crazy. And if you can do that, yeah, Josh. Josh and I were agreeing. Like this would kill with the fans. Like, I really hope they don't pull another like Goldberg, like they did with Goldberg and the Fiend, where it's just this really short, really like pathetic, like just try and finish the match as quickly as possible. It's like I feel like that just doesn't fly anymore. Like back in WCW days when they literally had to do that because he just wasn't that great yet, so they made the matches very, very quick and he would just take them down. Yeah, but nowadays I feel like if we're gonna go after the WWE Universal title, I don't know about anybody else, but I want something a little longer. I want like Josh and I were saying, like we want these 20 false finishes, and maybe there's only a few moves, but give us something longer than like the few minutes that we had last time. I mean, come on, Goldberg. And again, because it's edited and pre-taped, maybe there could be some really interesting things that happen between them. Who knows? Next up, we've got Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's title. I guess Charlotte's probably going to go over Ripley. Like Josh and I were talking, and he believes that Ripley is stronger when she's chasing the belt. Maybe you can milk that for a little bit longer, give us that real hero's journey, that champion's journey, so that when she actually does kind of get a victory over Charlotte, it'll mean a lot more. I have to agree with what he's saying. I mean, WWE is going to want to have Charlotte as that 25-time champion eventually. She'll probably go over this time around. And then later, it'll when Ripley finally wins it, it'll just mean so much more. Next up, we've got Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title. I don't know. I just don't care about Shayna Baszler. I feel like it's too soon. They're pushing her too quickly. And maybe that's because I'm so behind on NXT. It's just, I'm sorry, guys. There's only so many hours in the day. And I choose to watch, AEW, Raw, and SmackDown. I'd love to have NXT in there, but it's just I have to rearrange my schedule for it, and it's just too much wrestling. I'm sorry. It's good that we have options, but there's just so much in just the WWE ecosystem itself. So maybe if I was more hep on NXT and more in the know, I'd be more up on Shayna Baszler and more excited about it. But as it stands right now, I don't really care. I mean, I love Becky to death, but now that she's at the top of the heap, where else is there for her to go? And I mean, that's always the thing with anybody, really. Once you reach that pinnacle and you're at the top, where else can we go? Now, we've argued, as a side note, we've argued that, Becky Lynch versus Triple H would be something amazing. That's that next step where she can actually ascend even higher. There is no ceiling, you know what I mean? She can win the men's title because she is the man. And maybe they'll do that one day. I hope they do. But this particular match with Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch, I'm just not that interested in. Josh made a good point saying that it'd be interesting if Ronda was involved somehow. But that would, of course, like he's saying, take away from Becky a little bit, even though her spotlight, it is already fading. So it could be anybody's match. I don't know. I'm going to say Becky retains it because to me, Shayna just isn't there yet. She just isn't there. So Becky over Shayna to retain that Raw Women's title. Just give it time. Maybe next year Shayna Baszler will take it, and maybe next year I'll give a shit about Shayna Baszler. I don't know. Next up, we've got Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. I love Daniel Bryan, but I don't know. Sami Zayn, it's good to see him back. It was just weird how he won the title anyway, right? Like he's just like, oh, here's the title. It just kind of got slapped on him. So I don't know. I feel like he can lose it pretty quickly, and I feel like Daniel Bryan's gonna pick that up instead, I believe. Josh was talking about how this would be a huge opportunity to niche Zayn as like kind of a stable leader and someone to actually be reckoned with, which is a good point because, if you want to redefine his character as this kind of mastermindy type guy, they've been kind of starting that with, his management of Nakamura. But if you want to really establish him as a real threat, he's got to do some he's got to get in there and make some wins himself. And this could be the way to do it. Not a bad idea. But I still see Daniel Bryan winning. We'll see. Edge versus Orton in a last man standing match. Josh is predicting that Orton's just going to slip by. And he could see Edge winning, but then Orton punts Edge out until SummerSlam. Could very well be. I mean, obviously you don't want Edge to have a reason to be around too often. Well, you don't want him just popping up at every episode of SmackDown or whatever and just be like, hey, and just wrestling some jobber, So you could do that. I could totally see that. This is the kind of thing that you don't want. I mean, even if it's WrestleMania, you still don't want it to. You still don't necessarily want this feud to end. I feel like it's just getting started, and we haven't had enough clashes. Well, we haven't had any clashes really in terms of an actual match between Edge and Orton yet. Yeah, I could totally see them like pulling this out until SummerSlam when we make some kind of return, where Edge makes some kind of return. That'd be great. That'd be great. Cena versus The Fiend in a Firefly Funhouse match. How about that? It's going to be interesting to see what that means exactly. I hope it's better than the Chamber of Horrors match. I hope it's a cinematic type match. Maybe it can flesh out the character of Bray Wyatt / The Fiend a little more. We get a lot of nice little subtle hints of things in the Firefly Funhouse segments and just some good characterization from Bray Wyatt where he can. But I feel like this could be an opportunity to really show more and like almost even really tell a story, like a backstory, almost like a horror movie villain has a backstory. Maybe. Josh is thinking that this could be the cornerstone for the show, that the Fiend needs a victory over Cena and Cena owes this receipt, which I have to agree. Yeah, like if you want to keep the Fiend feeling menacing, he needs to continue to win matches. He can have a bump on the road, a loss here and there, but he needs to be, a legitimate threat. You can't just throw this away. Like he took down a bunch of classic, beloved, WWE superstars, which is the way to do it. Like to establish dominance and just being a threat. So you can't wimp out now. Like he needs to do this. Cena's not going to suffer. I've seen Cena. You know what I mean? Let the Fiend win. Let him go over. I agree with Josh on this one. Yeah. Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title. I agree with Josh in that I would love to see Drew go over clean and triumphantly after like a 15-minute knockout match. That'd be great. I feel like it all depends on whether Brock Lesnar actually feels like doing work that day or not. I feel like Brock Lesnar can be very lazy sometimes, and I feel like people will have ideas for great matches, and Brock Lesnar will just yawn and be like, nah. So I don't know. I'd love to see Drew McIntyre go over, but I almost just imagine it's like 2 F5s, and then it's just count to 3, and it's like 30 seconds. And, well, you don't have anybody booing because there's not going to be an audience, but I'll be booing. That's for sure. Maybe you'll hear me. I'll be booing so loud. This is going to be a very interesting WrestleMania. It's interesting because it's interesting for me personally because I was starting to really lose interest in WWE. Just AEW, if you ask me, it's just greener pastures. I'm just enjoying it a lot more right now. And so I kind of feel like the guy whose girlfriend like gets cancer or slips into a coma. Like he wanted to break up with her. He was getting ready to break up with her, and then this happens. So now he's stuck with her a little longer, and he's just like, well, I can't break up with her now. I can't break up with WWE right now. Not only because, and part of that is just because I want to see what happens. I'm just interested to see what happens with all this. And part of it's just kind of like, oh, well, poor WWE, all right, I'll stick around a little longer and see how this plays out. I'll stay with you there. It's going to be interesting no matter what. History-making moment, something we're going to look back on and maybe laugh. Maybe we'll cry. Maybe we'll cringe. Or maybe we'll say, that was fucking awesome. Something I had been toying around with was the idea of possibly this spawning not a new era for WWE, but a new possibility in terms of like the product and the way they deliver it. Like, what if they have these cinematic matches that I'm talking about, a la the Final Deletion or the House of Horrors match where, it's shot on a location and it's edited and it's filmed and it looks like a movie. What if because they do this, they find something that's really cool there? Vince actually gets it and he says, this isn't bad. All right. He always said we make movies, right? He said that in Beyond the Mad, we make movies. And this is the opportunity to do that. So what if you do that and you just have an additional show? Maybe it's on the network or maybe it's on a cable network. I don't know. But, what if there was a 30-minute to an hour show every week where it's a few battles filmed on location in a very cinematic, edited way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be canon even, and it doesn't have to necessarily advance a storyline. If you can just get two guys go out there to, I don't know, the subway, let's say, or like a farmhouse or something, and they just destroy it somehow, and it's just a really entertaining thing. What if you get onto something there? and it spawns a new show. I would be really excited for that because this is just something, again, it goes back to this is something you can't do on Raw or SmackDown because you can't just have the audience sitting there watching this 10-minute pre-taped match on a big jumbo screen while you're at a live event. That just doesn't fly. But if there was just another show that didn't have an audience, it was simply the matches shown. And with WWE's money and their talent, I think they could do something really cool. So maybe out of all of this, the lasting thing might be a new venue for expressing WWE's product and their story. Who knows? I'm trying to stay positive here. I think we all are. I think that's what we all need to do. We will see what happens. And let's hope for the best with WrestleMania coming up this Saturday and Sunday. So we'll see. Speaking of empty arenas, let's give a hats off to the workers and the crew, keeping the lights on for the fans, risking in some ways risking their health and stuff. I'm sure they're taking all the precautions necessary, but they're still out there doing the work, putting together these shows at the WWE Performance Center, the cameramen, the sound guys, everything. Michael Cole, the wrestlers, the performers, everybody, coming out to keep Raw moving when, some companies might have canceled and they just say, no, it's canceled. We're just going to show you, highlight reels or something or best of Raw or something. No, they're keeping it going, and it's been weird and it's been rocky, but you got to give them credit for doing it, for trying, for going for it. That also extends, of course, to AEW. Of course, the indie scene, as we had talked about last time, is considerably less fortunate. But keep in mind, those fans like us, we can check out places like Chikara that do produce their video online, or even the Fight app. You could try Fightful to watch taped events of the some of these, to watch empty arena matches or taped events for some of these feds that just aren't as lucky to have this endless money source the way WWE does. Or even AEW to a lesser extent, there's a lot of people who are really hurting here. A lot of organizations that are straight up going to fold. So, like I said last time, go buy a T-shirt. Go see if you can find some content. Maybe buy a few video on demand things online to show your support. They need us. They need us more than WWE needs us. That's for sure. So try to keep in mind what's going on with that indie crowd. Speaking of indie, AEW, Brody Lee debuted on AEW a couple weeks ago to an empty arena, and he mocked Vince McMahon last week and this particular week, this last episode. Brody Lee playing a Vince McMahon type character. Apparently, this is the new era of the Dark Order. And, things are very corporate. And it's pretty clear they're mocking Vince's corporate nature. I mean, somebody yawned and he's barked at. Like, Vince doesn't like people sneezing. It's clear what's going on. I'm not sure where they're going with this. It'll be interesting to see. So we'll see where this goes. It looks like they're going to keep this story going, or at least these little vignettes. I just don't know. Do they have a plan? Are they just trying to take cheap shots at WWE? Are they just having fun? Is this gonna be like a Brody Lee corporate Vince McMahon stand-in character? Like, is this it's gonna be a thing now? We have yet to see what happens. And last on our list, we have Mr. Rob Gronkowski debuting in WWE again to empty arena. I gotta give the guy credit. He had the energy. He didn't give a shit if he didn't give a shit that there was nobody there. He's you could tell this guy is just happy to be in WWE. From what I understand, he's a lifelong fan. He's always wanted to do this. Retired football player. Now he can live his dream and be a WWE guy. So we're trying to think of what's going to happen with Rob. Is he going to be a wrestler? Josh seems to think that he might end up on WWE Backstage, considering he was already a Fox Sports correspondent. He has broadcasting experience. That makes sense. That sounds like a slam dunk for him if he's not like a full-time wrestler or something. If he is, I of course see the inevitable fallout between him and Mojo Rawley. Having some kind of story there. But if not, I could totally see him being a correspondent on WWE Backstage, and he'd be dancing around still, I'm sure. He'd be so excited, So we'll see. We wish Rob Gronkowski the best. Stay safe. That's about all we've got for right now, everybody. WrestleMania really taking up the brunt of everything, and why not? This is big. This has never before happened. This is history in the making, folks. So no matter what, I feel like a lot of people are going to tune in, if nothing else, to see if it's a train wreck or not. So we shall see if it is a train wreck or not. We shall all see. But no matter what happens, you can count on one thing. Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling, in one way or another, is going to be there to talk about it, to react, to give our insights and opinions. We're sticking around, everybody. So we're being safe. You be safe. Go wash your hands. Then after you wash your hands, tell your friends to subscribe. hit that like button. It really does help the show. Hit that bell so you're notified of every time the show goes live. It is how YouTube works, but it does help us. Just takes a few seconds of your time, but it helps out the show greatly. Get your grandma to subscribe. Get your mailman to subscribe. Give your dog a YouTube account. Get him to subscribe, or her. It's equal opportunity. But be safe out there, everybody, and have a great night.